You're a traitor if you say the government might be staging terror attacks if you're Alex Jones. But then when you say it, it's okay. Well, now he's coming out saying WikiLeaks is good when he was saying it was bad a week ago. And now there's this development. Glenn Beck channels Alex Jones, economic crisis, food riots, and martial law coming. Well, that's what the Pentagon says, and I've been screaming bloody murder about these declassified documents for 3 years. Of course they know it's coming. The big banks that run our country engineered it. Now, we may be able to stop it, though. If they think we're not going to go along with it, they'll back off. If imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, should we be elated or alarmed that Fox News host Glenn Beck now sounds almost identical to Alex Jones? Earlier this week on his television program, Glenn talked about Pentagon war games, which featured National Guard soldiers training to take on protesters holding signs with the words "Food Now" scrawled on them. Yeah, and I've been to urban warfare drills 11 years ago where they scream, "I'm an American, please no, not the camp." And they say, "Where do you come from?" "Well, I came from San Francisco." "Where'd you get the gun?" And the Marines even have a guy get on his knees and they say, "Watch this execution." Of course, I started warning everybody, and I put the video out. It's called Police State 2000. And then Glenn Beck, years ago, attacked Ron Paul, myself, and others, saying we were nuts. Now he's changing. I mean, when you go videotape Marines and Army, even 60 Minutes did, and show them using microwave guns on citizens, people playing the part of citizens in drills, I mean, they're gearing up for war with us. It's unconstitutional. It's tyrannical. And they were doing this a decade ago for a financial collapse, right when they got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act. It continues here. On Beck's website, The Blaze, a lengthy article appeared in which the author warned the military is preparing its domestic response to a political economic collapse focused around civil unrest over a lack of food caused by the financial crisis. Of course, we were talking about this years ago. And at the time, Beck labeled us domestic extremists and said the Army might need to be used against us. Remember that? For doing so. Beck had a complete change of heart, or is this 180-degree flip regarding WikiLeaks' Julian Assange? Is realizing that the threat posed by those who wish to abolish free speech in the United States is far greater than any harm done by WikiLeaks itself, suggests that Beck is starting to see beyond the left-right paradigm. And, he said that he, just a year ago, thought that Judge Napolitano was kind of crazy. Now he totally agrees with him. And we know Napolitano's on board with liberty. He came out and said that 9/11, what we know of 9/11 is a lie, and that it will be seen in the history books, just like the JFK assassination, as a fraud. And the article continues. And we've asked the question time and time again, but to no real answer. If Beck continues to talk like this, will Fox News allow him to stay on the air? Or is the whole thing all part of a revelation of the method process? Beck is on the verge of going head-to-head with the same military-industrial complex that will enforce any martial law scenario, the same entity that finds and controls and the corporate media, which provides Beck with his platform. This dichotomy seems incontrovertible, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see how such a seemingly discordant conflict plays out in the long run. And I'm glad that Michael Braverman is here, because everything that we cover in the incredible Police State FEMA Camp episode of November 12th, now Beck, 2 years after saying there's no plan to arrest Americans by the military, is now coming out and admitting it. So why does he get to talk about it, Michael? But the episode of Police State's gone.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing about excuse me, it's amazing about Beck and how he kind of flip-flops. But I think what's happening is people are beginning to see the light, Alex, and you've been, out there kind of screaming in the wilderness for all these years. And I just want to say one thing about the police state before we move on. And this, again, I always talk to you, and we always, kind of get into things. And what I always say to your listeners and to people, don't take my word for it. Don't take Alex's word for it. Go on your computer, hit Google, and hit the words I'm going to tell you, and you'll see it. It comes up. And one of the things that really struck me, and then we can move on to the Gulf oil conspiracy, but the thing that really struck me was I went to the Missouri fusion center. Remember we talked about the fusion centers. It's called the Missouri Intelligence Analysis Center, MEAC. And you can go right on, you can look at their thing. And right in the MEAC website, you will see a thing about how to identify a domestic terrorist. And it goes on and it talks about a bunch of stuff. And again, this is written by a bunch of, probably moronic bureaucrats, sitting in a room very proud of themselves. But here's what they say. Sometimes domestic terrorists can be identified by the third-party affiliation that they have. Look for Ron Paul stickers on cars. It's right there in black and white. Generally, people carrying around the movie Zeitgeist might be people you want to look in. You might want to check into. Oh, and by the way, anybody who attacks the Federal Reserve, you might want to kind of snoop on them too. And one last group of dangerous desperados is out there that we really need to spy on. And that group, conspiracy theorists.
Well, that's what Cass Sunstein at the White House says. He says arrest people, fine people who criticize the government. Now we have the FCC commissioner coming out and saying that freedom of speech in the media was an aberration, and that the government's going to decide, just like in East Germany, what we're going to see. I mean, this is really happening, and the ruling class knows the people are waking up, and so Glenn Beck and others cannot ignore the real audience anymore.
Sure, because people see it. Again, you can go on the internet, you can see it, you can see what these guys did. And then then when a bunch of public outcry happened in Missouri, then of course they pulled it and they said, no, we didn't really mean that. No. We were just kidding. We didn't really mean that. That was just an internal document.
But we have hundreds of other federally written documents that mirror that. I mean, this is all written by the feds, and now they admit, quote, domestic extremists are the #1 threat. It's not the foreign turbaned men.
That's right.
From the caves. No, now it's that returning veteran.
That's right. And, people who think, it's just a bunch of conspiracy theorists and a bunch of nuts, just ask yourself, let's say you like Ron Paul. And let's say you put a Ron Paul sticker on your car, and you drive around with your Ron Paul sticker, and, oh, by the way, maybe you have a couple books on the Federal Reserve in your car. You have automatically branded yourself a target just because you exercise your right to free speech, your right to political expression, and you stuck a Ron Paul sticker on your car. Now, me, again, I always say, Alex, I come to this, I'm an agnostic, and I kind of come to this, I came to this with an open mind, and, there's certain things that, we may disagree on, and there's certain things I think really don't pan out. This one does. It's right there. And I don't want to live in a country where if I put a political sticker on my car, I mean, maybe I'm going to support the Green Party. Maybe I'm going to support the Peace and Freedom Party. Maybe I'm going to support, the Alex Jones Party.
Well, that's what's happening is the ruling class, the private Federal Reserve that's stolen trillions of dollars and won't tell Congress where the money is, they're threatened by us going out, speaking to fellow citizens, creating political movements, and taking our nation back peacefully. I mean, it is we the people, right? But now we see that Homeland Security is pointed at peaceful political movements, and they want to create a chilling effect, but it's not working. Boehner, the congressman, tried to block Ron Paul becoming the head of the oversight committee that controls the Federal Reserve. Ron Paul's somebody who wants to abolish the Federal Reserve. He's now the chairman of that committee. We run this country, and if we want to get the private Federal Reserve out of our nation and abolish it, instead of it being the second largest owner of our debt, it's our right to do it, and it's in the Constitution that the Congress should control the issuance of currency and credit, not some private banking consortium. And here's Bloomberg today. Ron Paul, author of In the Fed, to lead panel overseeing central bank. So it's our country. We're taking the states back. We're taking the federal government back. We're not extremists. We're Americans. We're the majority. We have the common sense. And these foreign corporations that have come in and taken over our government and sucked it dry of corporate welfare and that are bankrupting our country, they're going to be brought to justice through the political system. And that's why the establishment stages terror attacks. It's why they engage in all this demonization, is because they want to play the part of the good guys protecting us from ourselves. They want to train us that the citizens are bad, that the citizens are the enemy. Now, Michael, I want to shift gears in the time we have today, and I want to thank you for coming on with us, and I want to thank you for involving me in the first season and the second season. I'm really proud of the show. I think the second season is even more powerful with the JFK deathbed confession of E. Howard Hunt. There's the smoking gun, with going out and proving the fusion centers, the FEMA camps, the legislation, putting the congressman on the hot seat and him melting down. I mean, incredible Perry Mason type, moments here. And talking to the crew, a lot of you believe this is the big sleeper, the stuff that we discovered in the Gulf. Tell us as much as you can about what's coming up tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on TruTV.
You got it. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is I want everyone to just think about this, and you'll understand where I'm going in 1 second. The largest single industry in terms of dollar value in the world, by far, is the oil business. And if you take it all in composite, the refining, the drilling, the ancillary products, the infrastructure, all that stuff, it is the largest single business in the world. Now, people say, well, how much is the oil business worth? Well, the answer is you can't calculate it. It's quite literally, what's that word, incalculable, because it is so rich, it is so powerful, it is so, its tentacles spread so completely.
And our entire civilization is based on it, and the distillates are the plastics, the cars, the composites, the televisions.
You cannot calculate how much money they have. So, as Jesse always says, and as a lot of other smart people say, follow the money. The last estimate I heard about the wealth of the oil business was $60 trillion. That's trillion with a T. So if you got $60 trillion, it ain't hard to spend a couple of $1 billion, spread it around. You can cover up a lot of stuff. You can buy a lot of politicians with a couple of spare billions. So that's how you want to start. That's how I want to start this. And if you put that frame around it, and you understand that we're not talking about millions. Millions is chump change. We're talking about billions. We're talking about spare billions to just throw around and spread around and buy whatever you need to buy. Okay, that takes us to the Gulf conspiracy. Now, here's BP, foreign corporation, worth a huge amount of dough. It's almost impossible to figure out what their profits are because of all the foreign holdings from the foreign holding companies, just like the whole rest of the oil business. These companies, as we said